Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, you are not sharing the slide anymore. We are not able to see the question.
So you have the PDF file now? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll share. Okay, I'll share.
Okay.
That's the reason I have given you the PDF file so that you can just open in your computer also. Now, let me share. It's okay. You can look at from my computer also. Also, you have the PDF file. Okay. So can anybody tell me what is the strategy that you are applying? Aditi, can you tell me what is the strategy that you are applying here?
So heat transfer will be mCp delta T.
Very good. So what is M?
And mass will be rho into volume.
Very good. Okay. So how much is the heat transfer? Have you calculated?
Sir, I'm calculating.
Yeah. So quickly let me know.
Sir, 92.6 kilojoule.
92.6
kilojoule.
92.6 kilojoule is what?
Heat. Sorry, the total energy required.
So everybody
transfer to the copper bar.
Yes, fantastic. So that is the case. What is the mass that you obtained?
4.7 kg.
How did you obtain?
Mass equals to rho into volume. So rho into 4/3 pi r cube. And radius.
What is the how much the volume came? So you all should remember that you have to do all these problems. See, there are I think 12, 13 problems in tutorial 1. Say 4 or 5 we are going to do today in the class. But then rest of the problems you have to do on a you have to do by pen and paper, on a pen and paper, using a pen on a paper. Okay, you have to do it. You have to take images of all of them and send one file. Writing first will be the tutorial number, say tutorial 1. Second will be your name and roll number, and you send us a PDF file. Each one of you should submit a PDF file. Okay. So as we are doing step-by-step solution, so you keep accumulating. Some of the problems will be done in the class. Some of the problems you have to do on your own. And what is the date of submission? What will be the date of submission? Say by 25th, you should submit this. By next Friday, you should submit this. Okay. That will be your deadline. So 21st and 22nd, we have classes. And 25th we'll decide on 22nd, because I think we have a quiz on Sunday, right? 4th. Am I correct? When is the quiz, Vinod? Next. When is the quiz? So let me just open the Excel file.
Yeah, I'll check.
So quiz one is on 3rd of October. Okay. So 3rd of October. So most probably 70 students I may need 2 days, so that we will announce 3rd and 4th maybe. Okay. So next tutorial, we'll make sure this tutorial 2 is a little bit ahead of time so that you could finish by 2. Okay, so that 3 and 4, all of you can participate with the tutorials 1 and 2. Okay. Yeah, so you have obtained, all of you have obtained the heat load. What is the heat? Bhargav Saikia, could you get it? What is the amount of heat? How much is the heat, amount of heat you obtained?
92.55 kilojoules.
Yes. So it will be mass, and you have to be very careful about the units here. Since the CP is given in kilojoule per kg degree centigrade, so this is easy. But in the exams, this will be mixed up. And then you have 150 minus 100 centigrade. So that leads to 92.6, right? Now, average rate of heat transfer to the ball. Can you quickly calculate? What is average rate of heat transfer? How will you obtain?
Dividing it by the time.
Yes. So please go ahead quickly.
51.39 joules per second.
51.4 joule. About 59.4 joule. So joules per second means
Watt.
Watt. Correct. Now see here the energy to power is a very, very important concept. Power is an engineering variable. Okay. And energy is what? Energy is a scientific variable. Energy means what is the total potential available to you. Correct. And energy means how quickly you can do it. So the efficiency of any engineering device depends on the power of the material, power of the device. Okay. Whereas energy is, it's all available. So energy is not an engineering parameter. It is a parameter like how much you have in your bank. And power is how much you can really pick up, say suppose using an ATM card. Okay. So energy is more of a scientific variable. Of course, you need to balance, you need to estimate the energy that we did initially for Q. This is what I mentioned in one of the classes, that available energy is the estimate. But what I will not have everything available for me. You know, there is a limit called time. You know, how quickly I can really bring in, how quickly you can bring in your knowledge into exam hall, you know, to do a problem. That is what is called power. So it's very important to understand the difference between energy and power. And this Q is, you can see here, this Q is nothing but Q average. So the another thing is that this power is fluctuating. See, overall, I am trying to see how much heat is put in over a period of 30 minutes. So this Q will be an average Q. If I look at Q with respect to time, this will be varying. So once we go to the third or fourth chapter, while we do unsteady heat conduction, you will see this delta T component will also become variable. Okay. Now, what is the third question? Third question is, what is the average heat flux? Has anybody evaluated? I know some of you have already evaluated.
1636.41 watt per meter square.
Yeah. How did you get it?
Divided the rate by area of the sphere.
Yes. So this there is a notation problem here. This should be Q dot, correct? Whenever dot comes at the top, that means this is the rate. Okay. So there should be a dot on top of this. So this is one notation problem that is there. So we should put a dot on top of this. So I will make the solution manual available after the quiz to you. Okay. So your objective is, up to that point, you need to know. You need to do by yourself, but after the quiz, I think I will make all the solutions available to you, right? So of course, so Q average flux is what? What is the flux? Who answered the question? Can I know the name? Who answered the question?
Sir. Yes.
Arihant, right? So
yes,
Arihant, what is the area here?
Area, it is 0.0314 meter square.
No, which area here? Which area?
Area of the sphere. Total surface area of the sphere.
See, you have to remember that the sphere has a through which the heat is transferring. This is another important point. It is not any area. It is the area through which, the next problem will make it more clear. It is the area through which the heat is percolating. That is the area normal to. So that's why it's a flux, correct?
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, shouldn't this heat flux should be negative?
It is coming from outside to the system.
Yes, sir. So
okay,
if flux
surrounding is losing and system is gaining.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the energy of the system is increasing. So final energy of the system is higher than the initial energy of the system. Okay, so if you look from the system perspective, it is positive. If you look from the surrounding perspective, it is negative.
Sir, but for flux, we assume it like amount of from surface, it is means getting out or something like that. Means from for the spherical surface, the energy is entering. So for if we write in respect to that surface, so for surface energy is inside, so means it is opposite to that area vector.
That's what I am telling. See, if you look at this particular, see, you have to look now the systems, now the entire process into the thermodynamic concept. Okay, you have to look at the system, look at the device into a thermodynamic process. What is this thermodynamic process? This is a system. This is the surrounding, and this line is the boundary. Okay. Now, if I look from the system perspective, this surrounding is losing heat and this system is gaining heat. Okay. See the difference. If you remember Fourier's law, right?
Yes,
why the minus sign comes? Because final temperature is less and initial temperature is more. Okay.
yes.
T1 minus T2. That's the reason why your Fourier law is you have a negative sign. Correct? So if I look from that perspective, this system has final temperature which is high and initial temperature which is low. Okay. So system is gaining energy here. Okay. So if I look from the perspective of the sphere, there is a gain of heat. Okay. If I look from the perspective of surrounding, I see there is a loss of heat. Okay. Now your question comes to Q by A, correct? You are asking the question this A. Whether the sign of A is negative or positive. Am I correct? Because up to this point, Q is a scalar.
Yes,
now
sir.
you are dividing this with a vector. So this vector is, say, then you have to consider whether the normal is inward normal or outward normal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If your area vector has normal, which is towards inner direction, towards the radius of towards the center of the sphere, then your heat transfer is there. Then your heat flux is what?
Positive.
It is in the direction, positive. And then if the normal is outer direction, it is negative. How do you define the normal? It is gradient of R divided by mod of gradient of R.
Yes. So, sir, shouldn't in question it should be specified that we have to write the average flux considering the surrounding as the system or the specific system that spare as the system?
You can see this question is what is the average heat flux? Okay. C, question C, you can see, right? This is average heat flux, right? In your answer, you have to mention that average heat flux is this. This is negative with respect to what? Negative with respect to if it is gained by the system, it is positive. If it is lost by the surrounding, it is negative. Clear? Okay. What is the direction of heat flux? Direction of heat flux is like this, right? And if it is coinciding with the normal of the area, then this is positive. If it is other way around, then it will be negative. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Understood?
Yes, sir.
So that's why we are writing average heat flux. This is what? This is the system is gaining if the direction of the heat flow is from surrounding to the system. That should be the interpretation. Is that clear?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So more or less all of you have done. Who could not do it? Can anybody tell me who is not through with this? Nikhil, could you do it? Nikhil, are you there? Nikhil Nautiyal?
Yes, sir.
Could you do it? What is the heat flux? How much is the heat flux?
The heat flux was, Q dot was 51.6 kilojoules divided by the area through which the heat was getting transferred into the sphere.
How much is that? Did you calculate?
Sir, it was, I have not calculated it yet.
Please, everybody should calculate. Okay? You should all sit with calculator and pen and paper. That's why I'm asking everybody to do it. That's the whole purpose of doing all these things. Okay? Yeah, Rudrani, could you do it? Rudrani, are you there? Shaksham? Shaksham, are you there? Varun?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, could you do it? Could you get all the three?
Yes, sir.
Chalo,
Yes, sir.
let us shift to the next problem. Problem 2. So, Rudrani, can you please read this out for me? Saksham, can you please read this out for me?
Sure, sir. So consider a 150 watt incandescent lamp. The filament of the lamp is 5 centimeter long and has a diameter of 0.5 mm. The diameter of the glass bulb of the lamp is 8 centimeters. And determine the heat flux in watt per meter square on the surface of the filament and B on the surface of the glass bulb. And C part is calculate how much it will cost per year to keep that lamp on for 8 hours a day every day if the unit cost of electricity is rupees 0.08 per kilowatt hour.
Fantastic. Please go ahead. Now this is power is given and then you have to calculate the heat flux quickly. So you have 5 minutes.
So for part A, flux is 1.910 into 10 to the power 6 watt per meter square.
So how did you obtain that?
First I calculated the area of the filament and then
how did you obtain the area of the filament?
Pi into dl means the diameter is given and the length is given. So the area of the filament is pi d l surface
how much
area.
Is that? How much is that?
It is 7.85 into 10 to the power minus 5 meters square.
Very good. Then
I calculated the heat flux. So the heat rate is given as 150 watt and I divided it by the area of the filament. So it is 1.910 into 10 to the power 6.
10 to the power 6. Fantastic. So A. Now B.
I'm doing it.
Yeah. So everybody else could get the flux. It's easy, correct? You have to take the filament, you have to take the area. So filament means the area, why pi dl? Because you are looking at the cylindrical area, this part. Okay, you are not looking at these two parts because this filament is like this. So pi dl is the cylindrical part. That is the area that you have to take. And this is, electricity is going into it and this is getting heated up. So, you have to get what? You have to get so 50 watt is starting from here. Okay, although this is a kind of corrugated one, but as such, you can think about that this is a totally cylindrical one, right? Yeah. How could you get it? The heat flux of the filament? How are you there? D. Paul and Mang Haukip, are you there? Ravi Teja, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So could you get the flux? Could you calculate the
Yes,
flux?
sir.
Huh?
Yeah, yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How much did you get?
A flux filament I have calculated.
What is the area?
Area. It's of 19.625 into 10 power minus 6.
Area or flux?
Yeah.
What is the area that you get?
1. Yes.
Area of the filament? How much is the area of filament? Ravi Teja? Yeah, could you get the problem B done on the surface of the glass bulb? On the surface of the glass bulb? Anybody could get it?
Yes.
How did you get it?
I calculated the surface area of the glass bulb considering it a
What is that?
sphere.
What is that?
So
Yes.
area is like it is a spherical surface. So I considered it 4 pi r square. So basically pi d square. So it is 0.02 0096 meter square area will be, and then I calculated the flux by dividing the 150 watt by the area. So it is 7464.1.
So fantastic,
watt per meter square.
Fantastic. So what is the wisdom that you get? So suppose you look at the answer of A, which is coming out to be about 1.9 watt, 1 megawatt per meter square. Okay. Answer of A is 1.91 megawatt per meter square. Am I correct? Hello? Am I
yes,
audible?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, for the glass bulb, it is 7.5 kilowatt per meter square, correct?
Yes, approximately.
So what as an engineer, what is the wisdom that you get?
So that the tolerance of the filament is much higher than that of the glass bulb itself.
Yes,
the
this
amount
is
of
heat.
heat that can pass through itself without breaking down or something.
Yes, but you are talking about the heat flux. Okay.
Right, but the amount of heat passing through a specific area of the light bulb, if it gets beyond a certain limit, then there is a possibility that the material might break down or something.
Yes.
So that threshold is higher for the filament than it is for the bulb.
Yes, the other thing that you get is like, the megawatt that is there that you generate locally a megawatt of energy, right? But then in a bulb, what you do, you diffuse it to a kilowatt. That is a typical order of magnitude. Whatever you see light, in your all the fluorescent television, LED, and then incandescent bulbs. Okay, so it is about diffusing the power. Correct. So you generate a lot of power per unit area, and then you diffuse it per unit area so at the source the flux is very high. So you cannot look at sun, right? Because at the source the flux is very high. But using that sunlight, you can look at the soil, you can look at the building daytime. Okay, so that increases. Understood? Can you get that concept? So it is at the source, the power will be very high, flux will be very high, but that will diffuse as it progresses. And this will be very, very helpful in understanding the view factor concept in radiation. Later on, you will see we'll pick up this radiation. So view factor concept will help you. Okay. Yes, Ravi Teja, your answer is correct. Not 10 to the power 12, it will be 10 to the power 6. 1.91 10 to the power 6 watt per meter square. So please recalculate the thing. Okay, now the third problem. What is that? C is calculate how much it will cost per year to keep that lamp on for 8 hours every day if the unit cost is 0.08 per kilowatt hour. Okay, so please calculate this. How much will be the cost? Now you are coming to the real engineering. It's not only about calculation, it's about economics also.
Sir.
Yes,
actually, sir, I have a doubt. Sir, how would we calculate the sign for the flux in the B part? Sir, wouldn't it be negative because the system is losing heat here through the glass sphere surface?
Yes. Yes. Not only negative in the B, A also it is negative because now system is losing energy and surrounding is gaining energy. So in both the situations, the sign will be minus. Yes, very good. But then if you look from the surrounding perspective, it will be plus. Surrounding is gaining. But then nobody looks from the surrounding perspective. Why? Because your engineering focus is always on the system. Any engineering device is a system. My job is to see how I can accumulate energy from other places or how I use that energy in order to do a process. So my focus is always towards the system. So here, if this is my area and if this is my outward normal, that means, if in this direction my outward normal is there, that means my system is losing the energy. Okay, but if this direction outward normal is there, then the surrounding is gaining energy. So then from the surrounding perspective, the flux is positive. But if this direction is there, if I look from this perspective, if my area normal is in this direction, then the flux is negative. Area is always, you should think that area is always what? Area mathematically, how do we define? We define as like, multiplication of last class we were discussing, correct? This part very carefully we were discussing. Say area is a vector, correct? So area is a vector, right? What is this area vector? This is nothing but what we write. There is a normal, okay, which has a direction, right? Into a scalar, which is area. This is a area scalar. Now say suppose I have a surface which is like this, right? So I define a radius vector, say this, which follows the contour, this radius vector as r. This is a scalar. This is actually an indicator how this contour is changing. So how do I define an outward normal here? How do I define an outward normal? Say this is my outward normal, okay? And this is an r, this is a scalar basically, which just, follows the contour. It can be the height, it can be the radius, whatever. So how do I define normal? Outward normal is equal to gradient of this r, okay, divided by the modulus of this gradient of r. This is where the vector concept comes. This is where the normal concept comes. So this is a vector operator and this is also a vector operator. Correct? Now, if a flux is from this to this, then it is a positive flux, which follows the outward normal. If your normal is in this direction, okay, then the flux is, if the flux is, say, if it is going, the parameter, the phi, it is going, say, suppose I have a parameter phi. This is phi 1, say this is phi 2. If my calculation is based on this area normal, okay, it just defined by this only, then if phi 2 is greater than phi 1, then what is happening? Phi 2 is higher, phi 1 is lower. Okay, that means the temperature is higher, temperature is lower. That means, the heat will flow in this direction. So it is in accordance with this normal. So then the flux is positive. Whereas in that situation, if I calculate with respect to the outward normal, this will be negative. Okay, so the sign comes from there. Is that clear? It's the area normal that decides the sign. And how do you calculate the area normal? Say suppose you define a radius vector like this r, okay, or the scalar r, which is associated with the radius. Now, if you look at how the r is changing, gradient of r gives you, gradient of r by the modulus of r gives you whether it is an outward normal or inward normal. Based on that, you decide whether the sign is positive or negative. Understood, Saksham? Clear?
Yes.
Or it has become more confusing?
So
yes.
In the case, the glass sphere case, the normal would be radially outwards.
Normal, the way you define. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You can define the normal this way, you can define the normal that way.
So
please.
So when we decide the signs of flux, we see it in a thermodynamical way.
Yes. Say suppose I put system 2 in this. Okay. This is my system.
Yes.
Okay. And suppose this I put as surrounding. Okay. Now in this situation, outward normal is towards surrounding. Okay. So
Yes.
any flow, any flux that is happening from here to here will be a positive flux as per this normal. Okay.
Yes.
Any flux that is happening from here to here will be negative as per this normal. So according to that normal, it will be either positive or negative. But if my normal is in this direction, the way I have defined the normal, it can be in this direction also, right? It's an arbitrary, it's a mathematical quantity. It is you to decide how to do it.
Okay.
So if the normal is defined like this, then if the flux is in this direction, so this will be positive, or if it is happening like that, according to this will be negative. So this normal, this outward normal actually decides, the sign. Not you decide or I decide the sign. It's the way the mathematics that you are doing.
So, sir, does that mean that depending upon the normal, it may contradict the thermodynamic sign of the quantity?
Yes, it's not a yes. See here when I'm doing normal like this, right? Why am I doing it? I'm thinking that system is losing and surrounding is gaining. That's what my idea is. That's the way I'm defining. I am defining a scalar R, which is helping me deciding what system is losing and what surrounding is gaining. Whereas in this normal, what am I doing? I'm thinking that what system is gaining from surroundings. So these two normals have two different. So this you can see this is called an outward normal. This is called an inward normal. And outward normal to inward normal, what is the difference between outward normal to inward normal? So if this is outward normal, this is exactly minus of inward normal. Okay, this is exactly opposite of this. And just the way I defined R, it decides whether this is outward normal or inward normal. Typically, the way I have decided here, this is an outward normal. This is the way in O is decided. Okay, so if I define like this, if my radius, scalar is R, and then from there, if I decide this is an outward normal, essentially. Now, in this situation, what am I doing? I am trying to see system is losing and surrounding is gaining. So if some parameter is going from here to there, then it will be positive. The other way around, it will be negative, because this one decides in which direction. If it is against it, it will be negative. It is in favor of it, it will be positive. Clear? Clear? Is that clear? Yes. So
in which types of questions should we really bother about the sign, since this is an engineering based problem that deals with applications? So do we really need to bother about the semantics of whether or not it is positive or negative?
You should not initially, until or unless you see, for engineering devices, your perspective should always be from the system perspective. Okay, so here I am looking at the system, and here I am looking at a variable that system is losing. Okay, as such, whenever you are calculating the variable, you should not be worrying about the sign. I need not worry about the sign here. Okay, because it is going outward, right? Now, when the sign will be necessary, say suppose you have 2-3 competing situations. Say suppose I have put, say suppose outside there is also a filament, inside also there is a filament. There are competing forces when I need to add or subtract. When you operate something, multiply, add, subtract with certain similar variables, you need to worry about the sign there. Okay, could I answer your question? See, when you are talking about cumulative, right? You have to really worry about the sign, direction. See, it's very simple. What am I saying is not very difficult. It is like, say, suppose this is a vector, right? See, this is a vector, right? So this you say that, say, suppose if you tell this as a positive sign, the other vector which is of same magnitude and in this direction, this you call as negative by definition of a vector. Okay, So exactly that is the situation here. Conventions are created. Sometimes people take the minus sign out. Sometimes people just don't worry about the sign. You have to worry about the sign when you need to accumulate. Say suppose somebody wants 3, 4, 5 different fluxes are there and you need to add and subtract between them. Then you have to worry about the sign. For that, what is the rule? You fix one direction. Okay. And then calculate based on that direction all the other fluxes. That's it. You should not worry about whether these are positive curvature, negative curvature. Don't worry about that. You worry about, say, suppose system is losing heat and surrounding is getting heat. From that, you fix a direction. So this is my direction. Okay. And based on that, this reference direction helps you in getting all the other directions. Is that correct? Have you understood? Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Great. So what is the cost that has come up? Can anybody tell me quickly?
Sir, 35.04 rupees.
Rupees 35. How could you get it?
Sir, I calculated the total energy for 1 year. Is the heat rate into time, 150 into 365, and for 1 day the bulb runs for 8 hours per day, so into 8, so it is 438 kilowatt per hour.
Let me just intervene here. You see beautiful parameters are coming up here. First is 115 kilowatt, that is your power, correct?
Yes.
Now, if you multiply this with hour, number of hour, it gives a beautiful variable that is called kilowatt hour. What is this variable? What is this variable? Kilowatt hour means what is this variable?
Units. Like
no.
Units.
But that what is this variable? It's energy, power, what?
It is power. I mean the energy consumed.
Right, energy. So again, now you are going back from power to energy, right? When you are going back to economics, you have to go for the total energy. Their power cannot give you any economics. Power will give you the efficiency. But energy will give you the economics, because energy is total how much amount of coal you are burning, and from there how much amount of total megawatts you are generating. That is very important. Megawatt hour you are generating. That is the total amount of energy. That is where the cost is involved. Power is not associated with cost, but energy is associated with cost. That's why what are you doing? You are first converting this total power variable into what? Kilowatt hour, right? Kilowatt hour is your energy variable. Okay. Now, hour by year. When you do hour by year, what is that? Hour is also time. Year is also time. Correct. So kilowatt hour per year, again you are converting this back to power. So essentially you are playing a game of power to energy to again back power. So this is your total cost of power, total requirement of power. In terms of energy, how much? Energy is 438 kilowatt hour. Then what you will do? You will multiply per kilowatt hour how much is the cost. So that gives you the total amount of rupees. So this, if I just take this year out and take this year out, so 430 watt kilowatt hour is corresponding to what? Rupees 35.04. Am I clear? So your economics, what is your target as an engineer? You have to spend minimum. Okay, and then what you have to do? You have to make the process most efficient. So you see there is a game that is going on. So what is the typical cost coming out per year for a 150 watt bulb? Can you please tell me how much is the money that you have spending per year?
35.04 rupees.
So you are spending 35 rupees per year for a bulb. If you lit up a bulb of 100, what is the typical wattage of a tube light that is there that we use? Can anybody tell me? Anybody has the idea?
40 watt. 40 watt.
30 or 40.
40 watt. And what are the typical powers of LEDs these days?
3 to 4 watts.
3 to 4 watts. Now you see
9.
Yeah, 10. Maximum is 10. 10 watt means it's a very good LED. Okay. After 10 watt, it's very difficult. I mean, the technology is not very stable. So suppose now you see why you have, savings in terms of your electricity bills. So earlier you were using incandescent bulbs. This is typical, like, Michael Faraday. Okay. That was early 1900s. Then the fluorescent tube lights. Okay. Sodium vapor lamps, which is of the order of 50 to 30 to 50 watt. So, about half, right? And then now it is about 10. So about 10 times reduction. So power efficiency in Germany today, there is no power cost. Government gives energy for free. Okay, this is one of the promises that government makes, that if you elect me for governance, power will be free. So India still power is very, very costly. But actually the power should be free. One very important point that I want to plant in your head right now. So much of solar power we are receiving throughout the day. And during the night time, there is so much of darkness. So why don't we develop engineering devices? We just, save these things and then make use of in the night time. This much amount of energy is available to you. Why do you need to spend money? If you have really, see, LEDs are giving same amount of light. Technology is now showing that in 10 watt, you are able to lit the same room that you are lighting much less with an incandescent lamp. Okay. So power generation is one very important area of engineering research where you play around with these parameters. So this problem actually opens up those questions in your mind that, see, typically 35 rupees a year is your cost. And then if it is 150 watt, now it is 10 watt, that means 1/10. So that means how much you are spending for a LED, it is 3 rupees per year. Okay, so you see that now this is affordable to poor people. If you purchase a 250 rupees LED, you can really have 2 years of light with 6 rupees. So total 2 years cost you have 256 to 260, or maybe maintenance some you add 50 rupees, 300 rupees. In 300 rupees, you can light one room for 2 years. Okay, so this is the way one engineer has to think. Correct? Okay. Next one, problem 3, we should skip, because this I am going to teach next week. So you should attempt after that. Problem 4, quickly. We don't have much time left. So can somebody read it out for me? I want one volunteer here who should read out for me. Devashish Vyas.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Can you please read out the problem for me?
Yes, sir.
50
centimeter long, 800 watt electric resistance, heating element with diameter 0.5 centimeter and surface temperature 120 degrees Celsius is immersed in 60 kilogram of water initially at 20 degrees Celsius. Determine how long it will take for this heater to raise the water temperature to 80 degrees Celsius. Also determine the convection heat transfer coefficient at the beginning and at the end of the heating process. The specific heat of water at room temperature is 4.18 kilojoule per kg degree Celsius.
Very good. Have you understood the problem?
Yes, sir.
So can you explain from the figure what is expected?
So there is a heating element which is immersed in water. So we have to.
So this orange color, there is an orange color heating element, right? What is the temperature of that?
It's 120 degrees Celsius.
And what is the shape of that?
So cylindrical.
Cylindrical, right? And how are you heating this up? This is basically an electrical resistance, right? Right? So 50 centimeter long and 0.5 centimeter diameter.
Yes.
Okay, and what is the electrical resistance? How much power that it is generating?
800 watt.
800 watt and 120. What is the surrounding fluid?
The water.
Water. How much is water is there?
60 kilograms.
60 kilogram. What is the temperature?
So 20 degrees Celsius initially.
And now you have to heat it up to this water up to what temperature?
80 degrees.
80 degrees. So this you can imagine, the bucket and these immersion rods that we used to have. So you have a bucket of hot water, cold water, and you are putting these immersion rods, and that is getting heated up. Correct? This is generally like in cold places or winter we use these immersion rods, right? It's an immersion rod problem. Am I correct?
Yes.
So what you have to determine? You have to determine the convection heat transfer coefficient at the beginning and at the end of the heating process.
Yes.
So Newton's law of heating and cooling has to be used. Am I correct?
Yes.
So how will you do this?
Sir, I was thinking that this 800 watt is this heat is going into water. So this 800 watt is a point in time, heat point in time, with the power. So this should be equal to mc dt by dt, and so
yes,
and so we can from integration we can get time from there.
Calculate, quickly calculate.
Yes.
So I hope everybody understood what he said. So can anybody tell me what is the time that you obtained?
$5.225 hour.
5.225 hour. Yes, fantastic. So how did you get it?
So just equating the total heat needed for the water and
One minute. See, you have to make these assumptions. Okay, it's very important. So always whenever you are doing a problem, you should clearly state these assumptions. Steady operating condition, right? The rate of heat loss from the wire equals the rate of heat generation in the wire as a result of resistant heating. Okay, resistance heating. Thermal properties of the waters are constant. Okay, and heat losses from the water tank is negligible. So these are negligible. These are the three very important assumptions that you have made, right? And specific unit of water is already given. So what is the analysis? That you are saying that this electrical energy is nothing but rate of electrical energy generated is nothing but your rate of heat transfer. So Q dot is 800 watt. And then what is Q in? Q in is what? Q in into delta T is what? MC into T2 minus T1, right? Then what did you do? Yeah, please explain now. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Just equated both and solved it. So the time was.
What did you equate? Can you please clearly tell everybody?
Sir, I equated first the total heat needed for the temperature rise by 60 degrees Celsius for the water, and equated it with the 800 watt into T, assuming that for T time that 800 watt energy is being supplied at the rate of 800.
Yes.
On equating, calculated the T.
Yes. So delta T is 5.2. So you will be able to really heat up this water in 5 hours time. Okay. So that is not a very good immersion rod. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So then what you do, you calculate the area. lengths. What will be the area through which the heat transfer is taking place?
(7.85 into 10 to the power minus 3 meters).
Very nice. So suppose I want to reduce the time for this. Okay, what should I do? Say I want to reduce the time because 5 hours, no, you want in 5 minutes, right? What do you do then? Anybody? See, there are two ways you can do it. One is you can increase the rate of heat. You know, rather than 800 watt, you can use even like 1600 watt, so that will reduce the time. And second is what you can do, you can really increase this area. That's why you will see these immersion rods are not cylindrical, they are spiral. So for a given length, you have got more area, so you will have more heat transfer. And then we know from the Newton's law of cooling that Q equal to HA delta T. H is the heat transfer coefficient, A is the area through which the heat transfer is taking place. This is the convected heat transfer, correct? And Ts, that is the T solid minus T infinity, correct? Okay. So what is the heat transfer coefficient 1 before heating? What is the heat transfer coefficient 1 after heating, right? What are the two questions that we need to answer? Determine the convection interrupt beginning and at the end of the process. So in the beginning, this is 120 and this is how much? What is the temperature of this? 20 degrees centigrade. And then later on, this is 120 and this is how much? This is 80 degrees centigrade, right? So can we calculate the two heat transfer coefficients quickly? So Q equal to HA delta T. Delta T is 120 and 20, other is 120 and 80. So what is H1 and H2?
It's 1019.10 watt per meter square Kelvin and 2547 points.
Very good, very good. But then what is the unit of this?
It is a watt per meter square degree Celsius.
Degree centigrade. Very good. Watt per meter square degree centigrade, right? See, why do you have two different heat transfer coefficients in the beginning or at the end? Any idea that in this process, why the heat transfer coefficient is different? So you remember we discussed what is H? H is equal to K, that is thermal conductivity. What is H? H is equal to heat transfer coefficient. H is equal to what? H is equal to K by delta X. This we'll discuss as we go to convection, right? Okay, delta X, or this is equivalent to what? This is also equivalent to delta. Delta is the, say, suppose if you have a surface and on top of that you have a liquid. Okay, so this is the surface, this is the solid surface, and on top of that you have a liquid. Now this thickness of the boundary layer around the surface is called delta. Okay, which is called the thermal boundary layer. If there is a fluid flow that is taking place on a surface, there is a thermal boundary layer. Now, as the temperature difference changes, the thickness of this thermal boundary layer changes. Thermal conductivity is not changing. Most importantly, this heat transfer coefficient, what we are talking about, this heat transfer coefficient is in which place? Is it on the solid or in the liquid? It is in the liquid. Okay. So what is the heat transfer coefficient of a fluid? The thermal conductivity of fluid divided by this thermal boundary layer, which is convecting. See what is happening on the surface of this solid. As you are heating up, there is a recirculation that is starting. All of you know that first it is getting heated up, density is reducing, going up. Okay, then this one again getting heated up, that is cooling down, then it is coming back. So it is these Bénard cells, they are recirculation. This is called natural convection. They are starting. Now, moment this natural convection starts, based on the temperature difference, initially the temperature difference is very high, so the strong currents will be there. As the temperature will become more or less same to each other, what will happen? This recirculation currents will reduce. Now, see, if there is no temperature difference, then there will be no recirculation current. So you see there is one situation where 120 to 20, when your heat transfer coefficient is less. That means this delta is very high. Correct? The boundary layer thickness is very high. This value is less. But when temperature becomes more or less equal, what is that? This delta is becoming small. So your H value is going up. Okay, 2550. So you can see that there is a physical insight beautifully coming up that the convection boundary layer is slowly suppressed. As your this driving force, the temperature difference is reducing. Okay, I was actually planning to do 5 problems, but very good. Some discussions that came up. Is it clear to all of you? Everybody could get the answer? Yes, Parth. It is about 5.225 hours. You are correct. Great. Any other question that you have related to this problem? So I was actually planning to do 5 problems, but anyways, we did 3 problems and it is very good. We did some very good insights were obtained. So there are 13 problems that are there. You should do it by yourself, and the deadline for submission is 25th of September. Okay, so all of you should be submitting these problems by 25th of September. One single PDF file. You should not be sending multiple and then zip. One PDF file. Okay, in your email, and title subject should be solutions for tutorial 1, and in the Gmail ID that is being sent, the mails are sent from those Gmail ID only. Okay, so we'll archive and we'll put up the numbers also as per the document, and then you should verify regularly your numbers, that whether this has been evaluated and this has been numbered properly or not. Okay. Okay, any question you have? Any question? If not, so we meet on Monday, 12 noon. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.